Let's cut to the chase. We're ranking grade 1 sorcerers today. We'll be ranking everyone that officially is either grade 1 or semi-grade 1, based on their overall combat ability and skill as a sorcerer. I know people like Yuji, Choso, and Higuruma are technically considered grade 1 level, but we're only specifically ranking characters that actually have the ranking within Jujutsu Society. There will be some manga spoilers, but thankfully, most of these guys were outlined in the Shibuya Incident arc and the earlier anime arcs, but I will have to get into some manga spoilers, but I'll give a bit of a warning before I do that. With that in mind, I don't have much else to say, so let's jump right into it. Starting at the bottom, number 14 is Utahime Iori. Not much needs to be said as she doesn't have a single feat in the entire series, except for dodging Haruta once, and her whole joke is that Gojo always calls her weak. Unfortunately, nothing more to go on for now. Maybe she'll have some crazy feats in the future. Next up we have Mechamaru, or Kokichi Muta, and Masamiji Yaga, for 13 and 12. Yaga is essentially just as featless as Utahime, so I'd be more comfortable ranking him at 13, but that all depends on if you think he should be more capable than Panda for the most part, as his creator and teacher. That or he has some Panda level cursed corpses up his sleeve we don't know about. Yaga's ability being creating cursed corpses, however with the exception of Panda we've only seen one of these and it was taken down by Yuji in episode 2, with no training or cursed energy. Mechamaru has some more solid feats, having taken out 2 of Panda's cores in single attacks and making use of an impressive arsenal of tools and cannons. Of course, he ultimately lost to Panda's gorilla mode, stating just 2 attacks would be enough to incapacitate him, and that's why it's hard to say if he's stronger than Yaga or not. I think this is the same situation as with Machi or Franklin in Hunter x Hunter, where Yaga is probably meant to be pretty strong but hasn't shown the feats to prove it. If you want to headcanon he should be above Panda, that's fine, but from a hard feats perspective, I'd rate Mechamaru a bit higher. This is of course rating just normal Ultimate Mechamaru, not his final weapon mode absolute. However, I'll touch on that one later as the scaling is so drastically different. You can imagine this placement as just the single Ultimate Mechamaru mech. 11 and 10 are Noritoshi Kamo and Toge Inumaki. Each of these two were able to fight Hanami fairly well, Inumaki freezing them with cursed speech and Kamo chipping their skin away with piercing blood. Hanami was holding back at the time, but these two still did about as well as Maki with Playful Cloud, a special grade cursed tool described as power itself. Even when not using Playful Cloud, Maki received high praise from her superiors and generally being more impressive than Panda. To sum it up, Kamo and Inumaki are relative to Maki with Playful Cloud, and Maki is above Panda even without Playful Cloud. Kamo was also able to fight somewhat evenly with Megumi during the Goodwill event, and overpower him in hand-to-hand combat, someone who is also relative to Maki with Playful Cloud. Toge, on the other hand, was considered a possible threat to the entire Kyoto school team if he could get them all in one go, with only Kamo thinking of a valid strategy to beat him. Maki even considers Toge on a higher level than her, Panda, or the other students in general. Between the two of them, I'd personally rate Inumaki slightly higher, as Kamo more so has a method to ignore cursed speech, rather than outright overpower it. It's more of a matchup thing than Kamo straight up being stronger than Toge. Maki seems to consider Inumaki the overall better combatant, and just because someone has a very specific counter to that ability doesn't make them stronger on average. I do understand if you rate Kamo a bit higher though. 6 and 8 are Ogi Zenin, or Maki's dad, and Jinichi Zenin. Both of these are manga characters only, but I'll give a warning before I start touching on the major spoilers. Both of these two are part of the Zenin clan's most elite group, the Hei Squad, and were contenders for becoming head of the clan, a title Maki herself admitted she was not qualified for at the time. Ogi pretty much considered Maki totally useless, and the other Zenin clan members thought the only way she could possibly beat him is if she caught him in bed or on the toilet. To avoid manga spoilers, skip to this time code. Shortly after the Shibuya arc, Maki confronts her dad, wielding Juzo Kumaya's masterpiece, Dragon Bone, where Ogi safely floors Maki without even releasing the full limits of his technique. Of course, Maki has a major awakening through my sacrifice and embodies Ogi's full power, alongside much of the Zenin grunts. Jinichi and the other Hei members appear and have to fight this awakened Maki, and it's hard to say they did much more than tickle Maki. Ranta, another Zenin, believes a direct hit from Jinichi's technique could end the battle, despite watching many other high-ranking Zenin fail, and knowing that Ogi was also defeated. With that in mind, it's fair to say that the other Zenin possibly hold Jinichi in a higher regard than Ogi, That or Ronta thought it would do more damage since Maki was busy dealing with his paralysis technique. So you could really say one way or the other which one is stronger. Regardless, both should safely be above Maki during Goodwill, and thus above Kamo or Inumaki. Number 7, Kento Nanami. Nanami rounds out the middle of our list, which is pretty fitting seeing as he is pretty much the main grade 1 sorcerer, that he's around the middle. Nanami has a lot of feats to draw from for his scaling, but at a minimum, we know he's at least comparable to an enraged and cursed energy trained Yuji early in the series, with it being confirmed that even without cursed energy, Yuji is stronger than Maki in physical ability. It's also stated by Gojo that Megumi at the time of Goodwill, when he rivaled Maki, could never hope to surpass Nanami at the rate he was going without drastically changing his mindset and making full use of his potential that could rival Gojo, apparently. Either way, the fact he is safely stronger than people that are stronger than Maki mean he should at least be slightly superior to Ogi and Jinichi. Nanami's main claim to fame is his impressive striking strength, combined with his ratio technique, which forcibly creates a weak point on his enemy's body for him to exploit. We see this on full display as he apparently would have killed Haruta with every single one of his punches, had it not been for Haruta's miracle ability to save his life. It's even stated by Ino that Nanami's striking power is comparable to Yuji at the beginning of Shibuya. This specific statement has led to a lot of debate, from people saying Nanami's base physical punching power is equal to Yuji's, to saying he needs his full power plus ratio. I do personally find it hard to believe that Nanami's straight up punches hit just as hard as Shibuya Yuji, especially considering they were shown to be relative much earlier, and Yuji has been making massive growth since then. There's also the fact that Nanami makes use of the ratio technique in almost every single attack, even his punches, so if Ino saw Nanami throw a Yuji level punch, it could very well be with the ratio and he'd have no idea. Add the fact that Ino is the president of the Nanami fan club, and I think the only safe thing we could say is that Nanami's full power with ratio is equal to Yuji's punches at this point. Could I be wrong, and Nanami hits way harder? Sure, but so far it's hard to say concretely. Either way, this is a very impressive accolade, as this Yuji could even hurt Hanami at full power, and other special grade death paintings, Eiso, Kechizu, and Choso, which is an overall much higher caliber than those ranked below. Number 6, Mei Mei. As explained by Mei Mei, she originally honed her body to the limit before even mastering her technique and becoming a grade 1 sorcerer. With her physical strength, she was capable of bodying curse users that Yuji describes are even stronger than the grasshopper curse he fought near the beginning of Shibuya. And while Yuji did win that fight handedly, I think it's safe to say Mei Mei bodied her opponent in a far more dominant fashion, despite fighting 2-on-1. Geto then unleashes a special grade disease curse on her, which immediately uses domain expansion, and Mei Mei questions the last time she's ever put her life in danger, showing this curse is clearly of a much higher level than the aforementioned curse users. With a little help from Ui, who uses simple domain to stop the curse's technique, Mei Mei manhandles the special grade with her axe and bird strike. That ability being her controlling a crow to take its life for a massive amount of cursed energy and launching it at the opponent. Even Geto apparently dodged the technique rather than just tanking it head on top of complementing her ability as a modern day sorcerer. So consider Mei Mei is basically stronger than Yuji in close combat, can one-shot special grades with bird strike, and on top of that has been a grade 1 sorcerer since Nanami has been in high school. It's safe to say she should be the overall better sorcerer. If you include Ui as part of her arsenal, she'd also have access to simple domain, an anti-domain technique which gives her some added points over Nanami, who kinda got folded by Dagon. Next we have a comeback and currently the strongest semi-grade 1 sorcerer, Mechamaru in his mode absolute at number 5. Using mode absolute, Kokichi fights Mahito just 10 days before the Shibuya incident where he would fight Yuji. While I've been using Yuji as a benchmark to compare Mei Mei and Nanami to others, there's Yuji at the beginning of Shibuya, with Yuji having the potential to rival Gojo, apparently, and enduring several life or death battles like against Choso, and getting much stronger. Some might have you believe that Yuji's soul, which was apparently at 10%, means he is literally at 10% of his overall combat ability, but obviously this is nonsense as Mahito was apparently already down to 40% of his soul by the time Todo appeared, but his ability didn't diminish at all since the start when he and Yuji were already relative. It would also mean that Nanami, whose strikes were equal to a fresh Yuji, would be far superior to Mahito despite the fact Mahito was much stronger during their first few fights, which would mean that Nanami eclipsed Mahito's Gojo level potential, apparently, just by training off-screen. Yeah, I'm sure when Nanami was hyping up Mahito's potential when they first met, he knew he could just slap him by doing a couple push-ups. Maybe Gojo should have included Nanami when he was talking about Yuta and Hikari. The point being, peak Mechamaru should scale to this near Shibuya Mahito, which should scale above Mei Mei and Nanami. It's possible a Bird Strike Onslaught might honestly overwhelm his mech suit, but the fact this thing could take a few punches from Mahito and can dish out Cursed Energy Blast with enough power to hurt him makes me believe he should at the very least be slightly higher than Mei Mei, but I understand if you think otherwise. Either way, he should definitely be above Nanami, who was struggling with a way earlier version of Mahito before he even figured out domain expansion. Numbers 4 and 3, Aoi Todo and Naoya Zenin. Each of these two scaled to Yuji at the end of Shibuya, and logically at his peak so far, with each one having certain talents that would eclipse Yuji in certain areas. While Yuji was confirmed to be slightly faster than Todo, and proved to be more durable with the amount of punishment he took from Mahito, Todo was arguably capable of surpassing his brother in combat ability thanks to his technique Boogie Woogie, or the ability to switch places. Using this ability, Todo was all but untouchable against Mahito, even when Mahito brought out more of his potential with Black Flash. As explained many times, just using Black Flash heightens your use of Cursed Energy, meaning Todo was weaving around a Mahito even stronger and faster than when he defeated Mechamaru. Todo then used his own Black Flash, increasing his own Cursed Energy and climbing even higher. In the end, Mahito had no choice but to use his domain expansion to deal with Boogie Woogie, showing Todo's sheer skill and finesse. In terms of strength, we know he was able to damage Hanami with his normal punches and was generally considered the strongest student there and on par with Yuji. During the fight with Mahito, he was capable of kicking Mahito around, blocking his enlarged fist, and ultimately managed to survive a Black Flash to the chest with major damage. While his straight up raw power might not be quite as much as Mei Mei's, his speed and skill combined with Boogie Woogie is a combination that no sorcerer so far really has any way to deal with. Considering Hanami and Mahito both resorted to domain expansion, it's pretty telling that Mei Mei or Nanami have no chance of touching this dude. Naoya is another one of those manga onlys, so if you want to avoid those manga spoilers, then just skip to this time code here. Naoya, the son of Naobito, the head of the Zenin clan, was the first choice to become clan head after his father, and was the leader of the Hei, the Zenin clan's most powerful squad. In a clan that cares about nothing other than power, it's safe to say this means Naoya is stronger than everyone in the clan that isn't named Naobito. Immediately after Shibuya, he shows up to find Yuji and Choso and straight up blitzes them without even using his top speed. He then fights Choso, who more so resorts to outsmarting him, as even with his eyesight enhanced, Choso could barely track his movements. And Naoya blitzing Yuji as well shows Naoya should safely outspeed anyone near or slower than Shibuya Yuji. He later fights Maki after she bodies the rest of the clan, and while she can now keep track of his moves, Naoya is clearly the faster of the two. Despite her newfound power, Maki thinks a drawn-out battle against Naoya could end badly for her, and that he could do some serious damage if he hit her with his top speed. The only thing about Naoya that makes me hesitant to say he's for sure above Todo is that his punches feel like feathers and his bones are made of cardboard. Outside of using his top speed, Naoya was incapable of hurting Yuji or Choso without using a knife, something he admits he doesn't like to do, and he does get one shot by Choso's supernova. Mind you, Yuji managed to take 3 of these, 2 piercing bloods, a hole in his liver, numerous combos in close combat, and much, much more, and was still standing. Even after becoming a cursed womb and evolving numerous times, his durability was much less than Hanami's, something Todo could damage earlier in the series without Black Flash. Naoya's only real saving grace is the fact he blocked a kick from Choso one time, his top speed hurting Maki, and maybe some hidden knife shenanigans if you give him that. So, if he's able to reach top speed without falling prey to Boogie Woogie, he would likely overwhelm Todo. TLDR, given enough time, Naoya could certainly dominate Todo with speed. However, Todo could also probably take out Naoya with a punch to the jaw, and given Boogie Woogie and his overall high intelligence, I don't think it's outright impossible for him to do so, I'll let you guys decide on that one. Number 2, Naobito Zenin. Naobito could be in contention with his son or Todo, depending on how you take some of his feats or statements, but I think we have enough to say he should be above them. Naobito was the head of the Zenin clan without much contention, and was known all around as the fastest sorcerer after Gojo, even after his death, putting him safely above Naoya and everyone else on the list in terms of pure speed. He fights Dagon alongside Nanami and Maki, blatantly outclassing them in both speed and power as his barehanded punches cave Dagon's face in and break through his water barrier, whereas Nanami's ratio sword strikes don't do any damage in the slightest. This means not only is Naobito faster than anyone on the list so far, but his strikes pack more of a punch than Yuji at the start of the Shibuya incident. This dude is insane, and Gege can't seem to get him out of his head. When Ogi said they were equals, Gege was at his back saying Ogi was dead wrong and kinda stupid. He once said he designed Naobito to be someone who creates a powerful atmosphere and that he became clan head simply due to being strong. Given his age and the fact that he was drunk during most of Shibuya, it's possible this isn't even a prime Naobito, so I'm pretty curious what he might have looked like at his peak. Number 1. Atsuya Kusakabe. For the manga fans, this placement is obvious. Before we jump into the major spoilers, Kusakabe is straight up called the strongest grade 1 sorcerer. Even Gojo with the 6 eyes to see all possibilities and abilities thought it was obvious, and Mei Mei and Nanami agree with him. He somehow even managed to block Geto's maximum Uzumaki containing Mahito. Moving on to spoilers, Kusakabe was present before and during the final battle against Sukuna, showing his immense wisdom and knowledge on Jujutsu as the main mouthpiece during the fight, basically serving as a fight commentator the entire time. After Gojo and Kashimo are defeated, he joins the others in the fight, using simple domain to counter Sukuna's slashes numerous times, and eventually having to face the King of Curses one-on-one. It's here we see he's got some moves, showing the full potential of simple domain and cutting slashes all over Sukuna's body. An attack that Nanami thinks only Gojo could withstand, and when his sword breaks, no joke, he starts boxing Sukuna with his bare hands. And while Sukuna is severely nerfed during this, it can't be denied that doing anything against Sukuna at this point is far above any grade 1 sorcerer so far. Right before fighting Kusakabe, Sukuna slammed Maki directly onto the pavement with a black flash, and has fought her before as well, and Maki is equal to Toji, if not stronger now if you think she's been training. Maki and Toji, of course, being able to body the entire Zenin clan if they so choose. Ino even thinks Kusakabe would have no sweat keeping up with current Yuji and Yuta, who I've discussed in depth before could solo the disaster curses at the same time, let alone just Dagon or Jogo and almost dying. This dude is cracked, and honestly, if bro locked in during the Shibuya incident, things might have gone a lot different.